Greetings, fellow gamers. I am your host, Brent Justice. Welcome to my gaming channel, Justice Gaming, and welcome to Star Trek Online. I have for you today another Starship review. This is the Verne Temporal science vessel, Tier 6, and this is my official review of this temporal starship in Star Trek Online. So as you can see, today we have a very cool science-based ship to show you today, and I am actually very excited to show you this ship today because I would say it is one of my favorite science ships so far I have used in this game, and I have used quite a bit of science ships. This one is up there. It is probably going to end up being my mainstay science ship on Star Trek Online on my character, and I am currently logged into my science character called the Doctor, and he is totally geared for science, and that's what this ship is all about. Now, there are certainly very, very good science ships in this game, other science ships beyond this one, that possibly even have better capabilities in terms of starship traits and abilities. But I like this one from a theme perspective because I am all about time travel, future, science fiction type things, and this class of starship has been one of my favorite. I would say, however, it does not have the best starship trait. I think there are better science starship traits that exist out there, and in fact I end up not even using the trait on this starship because it's just really not that good. But again, I like this from a perspective of just playing the game. It's a fun ship to play with. So let's get into it. This is the Verne, and I'll show you here, Verne Temporal science vessel. Now, a little bit different than what you would get if you got this ship. I have upgraded mine to Tier 6X. That means I have the extra slots, console slots and whatnot that come with the ship upgrades. So mine is technically a Tier 6X. Keep that in mind as you look at it, because if you got a base Tier 6, it would be missing some of the console slots and so forth moving forward. Now, this ship is possible to get in the exchange, very expensive, and that is how I acquired mine. I simply got enough energy credits so that I could just flat out buy it. Now, what is this ship all about? Well, this ship is basically an upgraded Wells class. If you're familiar with the Wells class ship, that is a 29th century based starship in Star Trek. And that was seen in a Star Trek Voyager episode. So the Wells class is in Star Trek Online. It is a 29th century ship. But when they introduced that ship in Star Trek Online, at the time, Tier 5 was the highest starship tier they had. So the Wells class is currently a Tier 5 starship. So what did they do when they expanded to Tier 6 starships? Well, they created this one, the Verne. The Verne is basically the Wells class, but upgraded to Tier 6. So it's Tier 6 stats versus a Wells class Tier 5. However, the ability that you get, the console ability, is exactly the same as the Wells class. Now, you can combine other temporal starships like the 32nd century temporal starships. You can combine those consoles and everything on this ship for set bonuses, and that's where this ship shines. Once you get all of those ship bonus, all those console bonuses from other science consoles and other temporal consoles and temporal starship consoles, ones that are similar to the Wells or Verne class, that's where this ship shines. You put all those abilities together and you have an immense array of science-y abilities, temporal abilities, time travel type abilities that are just put together, incredibly powerful. Separate, maybe not so much powerful, but you put them all together and it's very powerful, and that's where this starship shines. And that's what I've done on my character. Now, this is more of a complete build that you're seeing here. If you just got this one ship by itself, you would not have all the abilities that I'm about to show off. You just simply would not. You are going to have what it comes with in terms of its unique console and its starship trait, and that's pretty much it. So you're going to have to, get all those other things together if you want those things. If not, on its own, it's probably not that great. It's only when you combine all of those things together that it becomes great. And that is what I have created for myself, because, as I said, this is now my number one ship that will become the mainstay on my science character in this game. Of course, I will still be testing other science ships as well on this character, but in the long term, if I were to go back to a ship to stay with, for right now, this is the ship I would choose. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and that is because it is so maneuverable. So first of all, let's just spin around in circles here. You can see that the maneuverability is really good. The ship is not huge. It's actually more escortish in size. I would say it's not escort size. It's maybe a little bit bigger, but it's also not cruiser size. It's a little bit smaller. So it's the perfect combination of being the right size and having the right maneuverability in the game. And that means you can have a lot of fun with it as you're playing. You can zip in and around things, you can zoom around things. I mean, just look how good I can turn. When I go to full impulse, I still have really good turn radius, so I can fly really easy in this ship. And it's that maneuverability and that flying ability that makes this a very fun ship for me. And even if I'm not using full impulse, I can use my evasive maneuvers, for example, and just, really fly around really nice. So the maneuverability and the way this ship flies is what makes it fun for me, because it's a ship I can actually enjoy playing with. I don't just have to sit there in one spot like a big fat cruiser. No, I can fly around like an escort, yet have all the power of my science powers, pulling people in, controlling, doing different sciencey powers with this. The other aspect that I really love about this ship is just the way it looks. It does look different than the Wells, but yet follows that same theme and pattern of the Wells class. So you can see the progression from Tier 5 to Tier 6. It has one of the more unique looks in terms of a Federation starship in this game. And this is what I see the future of Starfleet, turning into or becoming in their starship design. Not what Discovery shows us, not those ships, but this ship. This is what I see the future of Federation starships looking like. This makes a lot of sense. It's got a very rounded design. Very rounded design. It's got a lot of rounds to it. But then it also has some pointy bits. It's got very pointy edges to it, but it's very rounded in terms of its, top and bottom, which makes it feel organic, a more of an organic feel. And I think that's the way Starfleet would probably go in the future, or the Federation, in terms of ship design, would be a more organic design. And this ship screams that to me. It screams more organic than, I would say, the industrial look of the 24th, 25th century Star Trek ships. And so I really love the design. It has, I don't know how to explain it, an arrow-like feel to it. It's like pointing an arrow. It's like an arrow. While you do not need sleekness in space because there's no air resistance, it just looks cool. And it would have good air resistance if it were flying through atmosphere. So I imagine the ships of the future would be able to fly through atmosphere a lot easier. And maybe that's something, an ability that they wanted to have, was to fly through space, but then also fly through atmosphere really well. Well, you can do that very well with this ship. it would do both of those things. It's almost like a stealth fighter in that way. And it has those curved edges to where it almost looks like it would reflect radar just based on the design of it. It's like a modern day stealth fighter. But anyway, yeah, the design is just so cool to me. I love its shape. So if we look at it like this, its shape is just so cool. Look at that shape. I mean, you can't deny that. That's beautiful. That is beauty to me. These things up here, these cylinders, are part of its time travel abilities, and you'll see that when we enable the features on it. Not quite sure what this does, but it just looks cool. I guess the engines are back here, and it looks cool. The deflector is tucked up underneath, again, in a cool position. Again, the time travel discs, you can call them, are under here as well. And I'm not quite sure where the bridge would be on this ship, maybe in this area. But yeah, what can I say? It looks cool. So let's do some size comparisons so that you can see what it looks like size-wise, because like I said, it's not tiny, but it's also not big. It's just the right size. Let's see what ships are flying around here today. You never know what you're going to get. But we'll just pull up beside some ships just so you get a grasp and idea for what it looks like size-wise. So there you go. A ship like this, for example. Look at that. It's smaller. It's definitely smaller, so it's not cruiser-sized, but it's also not as tiny as an escort. If we zoom all the way out, this is what it looks like. Zoomed all the way out. So it is small on the screen if you're zoomed all the way out. If you zoom all the way in, it's very big on the screen. Takes up the entire screen. So you probably will not play it all the way zoomed out. That would be a little too tiny to play. Zoomed in a little more. Wish there were some better examples of ships to show you. However, that's what I've got right now. Maybe we'll look later and see if there's some other examples. Here's a Discovery. And there's another familiar ship as well. So if we pull it up next to a Discovery, you can kind of see how that would compare in size. And we'll pull it up next to this ship as well, just so you can get a grasp on the size of it. I have to say it's balanced very well. The size of it is balanced very well. So that's what one of the things I'm enjoying about it. But there, as we put it over this cruiser here, you can see it's kind of hard to compare because they're shaped differently, obviously, but kind of gives you an idea, right? There we go. Kind of gives you an idea of what it's shaped, how it's sized. But I have to say, I love it. Absolutely love the size of it. It's the perfect size for enjoying and maneuvering around ships. Like this big ship here and everything. I can just maneuver all around as I need to. I can go up and down and all around. Just look at this kind of maneuverability. That's what I like. We are now in the ship customizations for this starship, so you can see what we can do in terms of visual abilities. So it's Verne by default template Verne. Here's the Wells class for comparison. I would say the Wells is a little wider and has more pointies, but the Verne is maybe a little stretched, pulled out and not as wide. I think the Verne looks sleeker, looks more aerodynamic than the Wells. I mean, the Wells looks great too. I mean, that's still one of the great looking ships as well. but the Verne just improves upon it more and makes it even sleeker. So it does come with its own bridge, a temporal bridge. Oh, we have a shutdown in 30 minutes, so that's going to be fun. I'll have to pause the video recording and continue later when that happens. But it does have a unique bridge. However, this bridge is the same as the Wells, so it's not unique to the Verne. That's unfortunate. I wish it had a unique Verne class, but it is a Wells class bridge. At least, though, it is still a unique temporal bridge. In terms of materials, it's got the Verne material. And now, of course, you can change this. You've got, if you have mirror ships, for example, or mirror temporal ships, you could change that to the dark mirror. Here's what the mirror skin looks on it. Mobius, if you own the Mobius. Of course, you can have the Mobius skin on it. And then all the different types as well that come with the game that you could default it to, but honestly, none of them look better than the default skin that comes with the Verne. Here's what the upgrade skin, actually, that looks pretty sweet. I could ride with that. Upgrade skin looks pretty nice. Veteran skin just makes it really white. Very bright. And here's the Wells skin, so you could put the old Wells skin on it. Honestly, though, I just like the way it looks like that. However, you can, of course, also put different shields on it to change the look, and I'll show you one shield that I think gives it the best look. Now, in terms of style, it's either Verne or Wells. You can't change pieces or parts of it, so it's either one or the other. You can, however, apply different patterns to it and color variations. Welcome to the Verne Temporal Starship Bridge. So this is the unique temporal bridge that you get with both the Wells class and the Verne. Unfortunately, the Verne does not have its own unique bridge. It is the same as the Wells, but at least both ships have a unique bridge, period, which is seen, of course, in Star Trek Voyager. This is the same bridge layout that we see in the episode that deals with that Wells class ship in Voyager. So that's where this comes from, this bridge. There's not a whole lot here, unfortunately. We cannot go back here, blocked off, nothing to do back there. This little alcove has nothing. We have our account bank here. We have our library files and duty officers. The transporter, temporal transporter, by the way, we can't do anything with. We can select a small craft from here. You've got a small little window slit and this view screen here. I would say this is not the best designed bridge. If I were going to make a bridge for a temporal vessel, a 29th century Starfleet vessel, I would probably do it a little different. I like the idea of the temporal transporter seen in the show. That was cool. Transport through time, just like a transporter. That's cool, but I don't know about having it on the bridge. I mean, I don't know. I'd have it like maybe a room next to the bridge so I could seal it off or something. Maybe not on the bridge. But anyway, this kind of side view where you have the window and then the view screen, it's different. But I would add more windows. I don't know. I would change it up a little bit. But anyway, at least you get a unique bridge with the Verne, just like you do the Wells. You just can't do a lot here, unfortunately. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Can't visit the other parts of the ship. It's just this, and there's not a lot here. Here we are in the exchange. As I said, this ship can be purchased from the exchange. It is currently $1.5 billion. I mean, it might as well be. So it's quite expensive right now. It did not used to be this expensive. Or maybe it did. I can't remember. But at any point, I did buy it through the exchange myself a long time ago. Now note, when you're searching for the ship, it won't come up as Verne. You have to search for Temporal Science Vessel or Temporal Science. And you want to make sure it's the T6 version. If you just get Temporal Science Vessel, that's the Wells. That's the Wells, Korath, or Remor class. So you want to make sure it says T6, which will be the most expensive version. And that then is the Verne the Kulpa, or the Sumor based on what faction you are. So let's read about it. All temporal science vessels come equipped with a Tipler cylinder universal console module. The Tipler cylinder can actually rewind time. The dense beryllium cylinder core of this module rotates at near light speed, allowing your ship to perform a temporal backstep and rewind time approximately 13 seconds. Your ship's position reverses, and some of your ship's hull and shield damage is restored. Additionally, the cooldown and recharge times of all your abilities are reset. This console also provides a passive boost to exotic damage and starship shield capacity skill. The Tipler cylinder is part of a set. If you also have a Mannheim device, activating the temporal backstep will cause all nearby foes to freeze in time until the sequence has ended. After you reach level 5 in your temporal science vessel tier 6, you will unlock the Out of Time starship trait. While this trait is slotted, traveling above 88 impulse speed will cause you to gain stacks of Out of Time, while suffering minor cold damage each second. When you then drop below 88 impulse speed, all stacks of Out of Time are removed from a scaling bonus to your bridge officer recharge time is applied based on the number of stacks. Okay. Hull strength is 1, 30,000 level 40, all the way up to 40,000 at level 60. Shield modifier is 1.45. Remember, for science vessels, shield modifier is usually a lot higher. 3 foreweapons, 3 aft. Pretty typical for science ship. 3 device slots. 1 lieutenant universal. 1 lieutenant commander universal. 1 ensign engineering. 1 lieutenant commander science/temporal operative. 1 commander science/temporal operative. So it's got 2 universal bridge officer seatings, and also the temporal operative seating as well, and commander science because it's a science ship. So this has a lot of flexibility in your seating. You have 3 tactical, 3 engineering, but 5 science. We're all geared for science here. 15 degrees per second, impulse modifier 0.2, subsystem targeting and sensor analysis, a secondary deflector slot, molecular reconstruction. So because it's a temporal starship, it has the molecular reconstruction. That's basically an extra weapon on the ship. Plus 15 auxiliary, plus 5 shield. It has the enhanced Tipler cylinder. It has the NCV registry prefix option. And you have the Science Vessel Starship Mastery Package, enhanced particle generators, advanced shield systems, enhanced restorative circuitry, reactive shield technology, and Out of Time. Those are the stats. Alright, let's look at my build on this ship. Now keep in mind, I have many things that you will not have on this ship if you just outright purchase it first, because I have many devices from other science ships and other temporal ships so that I could get the full sets. And that makes this ship very powerful, and I would argue that's what makes this ship powerful, is by putting all those sets together, not the fact that it has its starship trait or abilities. Its starship trait I actually find not that useful. It's more of the features and things you put on the ship that make it more useful. In addition to that, mine is the Tier 6X, so I have gone above and beyond what the Tier 6 offers. That gives me an extra trait slot called an experimental trait. I can put an extra trait in there, so I can go beyond 4 or 5, whatever starship traits it is. I have an extra one. I also have an extra console slot. I think it's the engineering or the tactical, one of these. It has put an extra slot in for console. And I also have a universal console, which I don't think the other one has. And so upgrading that Tier 6 has really boosted the ship for me and made it even more powerful. You will not have that if you just get the Tier 6 version. So what you're seeing is pretty much the best case scenario of this ship. Keep that in mind as you look at my build. Remember also, I'd never claim my build is the best build for this ship. This is simply a build that works for me, and it's a build that allows me to show off its features to you. The goal of this video is to concentrate and focus on the starship's abilities and how it plays in the game as a starship, and the enjoyability of the ship, if it's something you might be looking for its features, its functions, and its playability. Alright, that said, what I am using on this ship is the temporal reputation. So if we go to reputation here, it is the Temporal Defense Initiative reputation that I am using on this ship. The entire Temporal Defense Initiative reputation, that is. So therefore, I have the Chronoton Dual Beam Bank, I have the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Beam Array, the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Torpedo Launcher, the Temporal Defense Initiative Deflector Array, I have the Temporal Defense Initiative Combat Impulse Engine, the Temporal Defense Initiative Overcharged Warp Core, and the Temporal Defense Initiative Regenerative Shield Array. In addition, I have the Temporal Disruptor Device, and I have 2 omnidirectional anti-proton beams. Now, remember that the type of weaponry here called Chronoton is based on anti-proton. So anti-proton energy damage is what I'm throwing out on this ship. So I want to buff everything anti-proton. Also, I want to buff everything science. And buffing exotic damage and that sort of thing is what I have going on with this ship as well. For the secondary deflector, I've got the Strategic Deteriorating Secondary Deflector, Drain X, EPG, Shield Heal, EPG, SA damage. There's the stats on that. You can pause and read that. In addition, I have a few devices, a Temporal Negotiator, which reduces Bridge Officer recharge time. I've got the Subspace Field Modulator by Red Matter Capacitor. I am using the Universal Console for a polymorphic probe array, and one of the big reasons why I've chosen this Universal Console is, look at that, plus 25% to anti-proton damage. So that's basically acting like another tactical console slot for me, boosting my anti-proton damage a lot more. Plus, it also boosts my control expertise, and then gives me these polymorphic viral probes, which does viral matrix on the enemy. So that, again, is to boost my anti-proton damage, just give me more damage as a science ship, utilizing that Universal Console slot. And then, of course, my tactical consoles also boost anti-proton damage and critical chance as well, all maxed out, of course. And then we come down to my engineering consoles. I have the assimilated module from the Borg, Adapted Borg. I've got the Chronoton Drive Actuator. This is part of the Temporal Defense Initiative armaments. Remember, again, I have the whole set from the Temporal Defense reputation. So that means the Chronoton Torpedo Launcher, the Drive Actuator, and the Energy Weapon. Gives me a 3-piece bonus here. Let's read about that. So the 2-piece bonus is a plus 8.9% directed energy weapon damage, so more damage, plus 5% critical severity, and then set 3 bonus of this is called Temporal Threading. Basically, my weapons gain plus 25 armor, penetration, and 25% shield penetration for 15 seconds. And that is because of this set here that I am using from the Temporal Defense Initiative reputation. So that's the console from that reputation, which is part of, you know, the deflector, impulse warp, warp core, the dual beam bank here, the Temporal Defense Chronoton Beam Array, and the Temporal Defense Chronoton Torpedo Launcher. That's part of that set. And then this is part of the Temporal Warfare set. So this is a completely different set called Temporal Warfare, with the Chronoton Dual Beam Bank, the Disruption Device, and the Tachyonetic Converter. I have this other set. And what this set does, the set 2 bonus gives me plus 34.2% Chronoton projectile weapon damage. So a large amount of Chronoton projectile weapon damage that improves my projectile weapon. And then I get a Temporal Inversion Field ability. It affects foe 5-kilometer sphere. Basically, to all enemies, I can reduce their flight speed, their turn rate, and their power recharge. And when it's equipped on a Wells, a Mobius, a Paradox, or an Anorax, you get plus 50% flight speed, plus 100% turn rate, and plus 150% power recharge speed. And that's by having all 3 pieces together. And I do have all 3 pieces. So the 3 pieces for this one is, again, this thing here, which is the temporal disruption device, or the temporal disruption device, and then the dual beam bank, and then the tachyonetic converter. And I have that here. Here's the tachyonetic converter. This gives you starship control expertise, also boosts your flight turn rate and your critical chance and your critical severity. There you go, plus 13.1% critical severity. So all those things in combination are giving me like huge set bonuses there, right? I also have a Trillium D that gives me damage resistance, hull capacity, shield capacity, and shield capacity is already good on the ship. Remember, it has a high shield modifier, so more hull, more ship, more shield capacity is going to amplify that even more. And then it adds 7.5% of my auxiliary power to my shield power as bonus power. So that's nice. I also have another ability, and I have this always on my science ships. This is called an exotic particle field exciter with a res all. So this gives a plus 26.2 all damage resistance rating, plus 39.4 starship exotic particle generator. And this is what I was talking about, improving my exotic damage. So plus 39.4 exotic damage. Also more shield capacity, plus 26.2% maximum shield capacity. And when shield healed, applies a field exciter for 15 seconds, which increases, again, more weapon power. So I am getting so many bonuses just out of all that stuff alone. But it doesn't stop there. No, it goes on. Here's the Tippler cylinder. This is what comes with this starship, okay? This in itself gives you a plus 15% exotic damage. Yes, plus 15% exotic damage. And plus 21.4 starship shield restoration. So I've got 2 things boosting my exotic damage right there just alone. And I probably have other things otherwhere I'm not even aware of. I know I do. In fact, there's other things I do on here. Right here, my secondary deflector. It's also giving me plus 15.9 starship exotic particle generator. So I have that going. And then plus 10.6 starship exotic particle generator too. So it gives me like 2 bonuses there. But anyway, here's the Tippler cylinder. So this is a whole shield repair plus recharge time reduction, and it does that by rewinding time and doing all those wonderful things. In addition, because I have the Mannheim device, it will freeze all the foes while it's happening. So it doesn't just rewind time, it also holds and freezes the foes while it's rewinding time and resetting all my systems. This is pretty much, you want to use this when you're like close to dying, right? You're out of power, or you want to reset your powers instantly, or you're about to die, or you're just totally out of all your abilities, like let's say the time is up on all of them, and you're waiting for cooldowns. That's when you want to hit this ability, rewind time, and then you can reuse all your stuff. Very powerful device for that. But it doesn't stop there, no sir. I also have the Mannheim device, like I said. So that goes in combination with the Tippler cylinder and freezes the foes. But it also has its own ability. It summons 2 duplicates of my ship. Plus 100 all damage resistance rating for 30 seconds. Creates future and past quantum duplicates of my ship. Yep, that's cool. Basically, it confuses the enemy. And it's also part of the temporal fragmentation set. Ooh, time's running out. I got 10 minutes. See if I can wrap up this the specs here at least. So this is also part of the temporal fragmentation set. You need the temporal rift stabilizer, the Tippler cylinder, the Mannheim device. So, of course, I also have the temporal rift stabilizer. This also boosts my exotic damage, plus 6% exotic damage, and plus 15% flight turn rate. It's an area of effect slow, kinetic damage, damage debuff. Creates 5 temporal distortions within 3 kilometers of your target. Temporal distortions affect foes, does kinetic damage per half a second, ignores shields, reduces damage by 50%, reduces turn rate, reduces impulse speed. So that's another ability I have. But in addition to that, you also have the bonuses that come with this set. So you have the fragment time 2-piece bonus. Adds fragment time to Tippler rewind ability. All nearby foes become held. We've talked about that. But I get this third ability called temporal acceleration. 10% recharge time reduction to science bridge officer abilities. 50% recharge time reduction to temporal console abilities. So that means my recharge time on science powers and temporal powers is reduced. That's awesome. Flat out. Let's go over the Starship Masteries, and then I think I'm going to have to quit recording because the server is about to shut down on me here. Starship Masteries. So the first one is the Enhanced Particle Generators. Again, plus 15% damage to exotic damage abilities. I've got exotic damage abilities being buffed all over the place on this ship. Just all over the place. Plus 10% to shield hit points is the second one. The third one improves hull healing abilities by 10%, improves shield healing abilities by 10%. The fourth one improves shield regeneration and hardness, 28.3 shield regeneration every 6 seconds, and 5% shield resistance. And then finally, this is the out of time ability, the Starship trait that this comes with. And very cool, they're referencing here Back to the Future with the 88 impulse speed. 88 miles per hour! At high speed, cold damage to self, store stacks. At lower speed, recharge to buff abilities from the number of stacks. So basically, this is a way to reduce your recharge time on your abilities, on your bridge officer abilities. But you can only achieve that if you go over 88 impulse speed, and then it starts stacking. And then when you go out of that speed, those stacks turn into a reduction in your bridge officer time. A really not very useful Starship trait, gonna be honest with you. Really not very useful. It does cold damage to yourself also while that's happening. I don't really find this ability useful. I have it enabled to show it to you in this video, but normally I would not run this trait. I would take that out of that slot and put in a better trait. Just gonna say that right now. Out of time, not that useful, but I have it enabled to show you. I also have the experimental traits because I have one more trait enabled. I have Black Alert from the Discovery science ship that I also own, and I put that on this ship so I could have an extra trait. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Starship traits, and then a sixth one. So I've got 6 Starship traits on here. That's a lot. I have the improved predictive algorithms. I also have the unstable anomalies from another temporal ship I have. Upon expiration of gravity well, Tychon's Rift, chronometric inversion field, or timeline collapse, it applies kinetic damage to foes. So basically I can use my gravity wells and do more damage to foes. And of course I'm really buffed exotic damage, so that's just going and going and going there, doing a ton of damage. I've also got improved critical systems, which is critical chance and critical severity. And then I also have emitter synergy, again another buff to exotic damage, plus 7.5 exotic damage, and it stacks up to 3 times, and then shield heals also. And then, of course, the out of time, which is what comes with this ship. In terms of stations, there's your universal, there's your temporal officer, your temporal abilities. Temporal abilities on this one, we got 5 minutes. I'm gonna make it. We'll finish all these specs here, and then I can move on, and we'll do the space stats after this, but I'll have to wait until the server comes back online. So yes, so you've got your universal. I'm using it obviously for tactical here, so I can have a tier 3 tactical ability. I've got high yield 3 and beam overload 2. You got another universal slot. I'm using it for engineering, so I can have engineering team 2, power to weapons, emergency power to engines on this other engineering one. And then of course you got your main show here is the science. I got Gravity Well 3, Subspace Vortex 3, Science Team 2, Tachyon Beam 1. Also Tychon's Rift 2, Hazard Emitters 2, Tractor Beam 1. But these are temporal. I don't have any temporal abilities right now showing. But like, let's say this one here, he supports temporal stuff. Let's say I wanted to enable temporal abilities on this character or on this ship, I could. I could have causal reversion 1 or entropic redistribution or channeled deconstruction or Heisenberg amplifier. These are temporal abilities that I could have on this ship, you know, in addition to just the regular science bridge officer powers. So that gives a lot of flexibility in what this ship has in terms of specifications and build opportunities and abilities. Okay, we are now in space, and now that we are in space, we can look at my particular stats and everything on the ship. Of course, that will be different based on whatever you choose to use. Your powers, your abilities, your consoles, everything is going to determine all of your stats, but I will just show you mine on the ship so you can get an idea of what it might be capable of doing. Also, I should mention that in terms of the specializations, I am using the temporal operative specialization as primary, and I am using intelligence officer as secondary. This again goes with my temporal or time travel theme on this character and this starship, using every temporal ability. Now, the reason why I wanted to specifically mention this one is because there is a special ability that this does, and I forgot the exact name of it or where it comes from specifically. I should have looked that up before. But basically what it does or allows is there's this ability that when you die, you basically, your ship, when you explode, resets itself. It like travels back in time instantly and resets everything, so you don't end up exploding and everything like your powers and all that having to wait for cooldowns or whatever. You'll see, you might see it in combat here when we go into combat. I'm not sure. I should have looked up what the ability is actually called. It's really cool ability. I just forgot the name of it. But what it does, it'll happen. When it happens, I'll show it to you, if it happens. But basically, it's a very cool ability that's part of that. So that's not part of this ship specifically. That's just an ability I have because of that. So anyway, I'll point that out if it happens. But otherwise, don't worry about that one too much. It's not part of the ship. So let's look at my powers here. 125 on weapon power, 95 on shield, 48 on engine, 78 on auxiliary. I have a high auxiliary power, obviously, because of all my sciencey powers that I will be firing off. And so now let's look at the actual stats here. I have a stealth detection rating of 103.62. Power transfer rate is 210%. My defense rating is 60 when I'm at impulse. I have a hull of 74,235. Not bad for a science ship, especially one that can maneuver this well. My shield strength is very high, almost 30,000. Again, remember, it's got a 1.45 modifier on the shield, so all those other things I have also boosting shield strength. So really high on shield here, and that makes sense for a science build. My resists are pretty good, almost 40% on everything. I have an accuracy rating of 29.9. My crit chance is 16.4%. That's pretty good. And then look, my crit severity is over 100%. I have almost 115. I got 114% critical severity. Turn rate, as I told you guys, was really good. 34.1 degrees a second on this ship. Flight speed is 30.7. So at impulse here, as you can see, I am doing 30.7 when I'm at regular impulse. When I go to full impulse, let's see what that is. That turns out to be about 243 for the full impulse speed there. And you can see the awesome maneuverability of the ship. We'll let all my power numbers and everything come back into line, and then we'll look at all of my DPS numbers really quick here. So here are my DPSs. Chronoton Dual Beam Bank is doing 2347 anti-proton damage, 1877 DPS. The Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Array is doing 1978 anti-proton damage, 1583 DPS. The Torpedo is doing 10,000 kinetic damage, 1003 DPS. My rear, I have two rear 360 degree arc weapons, 1618 anti-proton, 1294 DPS. This one is 1838 anti-proton, 1471 DPS. And then the Temporal Disruption Device creates a level 75 Temporal Disruption Device, 1k radius, 19,000, almost 10,000 kinetic damage. So that's quite a bit. And of course, when I buff these things, they go even higher. So power to weapons, for example. And now I've buffed this up to 1724 DPS, 2155 anti-proton, 2560 anti-proton, 2000 DPS. So of course I have abilities like emergency power to weapons that will buff the damage on everything. Okay, so now let's look at the abilities of this ship, right? So the first ability is the Tippler Cylinder. So this is what the ship comes with right here. And it's the Temporal Backstep. So the hull, shield repair, and recharge time reduction. Affects foe, set bonus, hold all foes in a 5k radius for 7 seconds if a Mannheim device is equipped, which I do. It holds foes to self, untargetable, blah blah blah. After 2 seconds, move backwards to your approximate previous position. After 2 seconds, you gain 1729 hit points per second for 5 seconds. After 2 seconds, 638.2 shield regeneration to each facing shield for 5 seconds. So I don't have any damage right now to show that. But here's my hull at 74,235, so we'll see if that kind of goes up. I'm going to enable it right now, and you can see what that looks like. And that's basically it. We're stepping backwards. Very cool graphic. And then I guess it doesn't reflect here in the hull. I probably need to take damage in order for that to heal the hull strength and give me more hit points. But as we take damage, you'll see that I can go back in time with that feature and replenish everything. There's a 2-minute cooldown, as you can see. And of course, what we couldn't see here is that if I had foes near me, they would also be held because I have the Mannheim device. So that is what comes with the ship. That's the Temporal Backstep. That is, again, part of that set, and I have other things going on, but that's what you get with the ship. That's its, quote, special ability. The other special ability, which I can't show until we're in combat, is, again, the Out of Time. So with this one, we have to go over 88 impulse speed, right? That's pretty darn fast. So if I go my regular full impulse, I'm only at 30. So I will never achieve that going this slow. I would have to hit full impulse in order to go over 88, and then when you come out of it, Out of Time would engage as long as I go over 88, right? But you have to be in combat for that to work. Now, another way you could also do it is if you have like evasive maneuvers, and then I also have emergency power to engines. So evasive maneuvers alone won't do it. No, it will. So there you go. Evasive maneuvers will take me over 88. So doing evasive maneuvers should gain me the ability to... Oh, got a bit of lag there in the game. Doing evasive maneuvers should gain me the ability to go over 88 and enable Out of Time. But the emergency power to engines alone will not do it. That only takes me up to 73. So I need to get to 88. So I have to use evasive maneuvers or full impulse in order to get me above 88 to enable that. So it's the kind of thing where you have to like kind of use it while you're in combat, and only then does it work. But because of the way you have to use it, you have to like use evasive maneuvers while you're in combat in order for it to work. So the usefulness of it is not that great, because when you're in combat, you're not really using evasive maneuvers a whole lot, except to get out of a situation. You're not really using it while you're in combat. However, the feature only works while you're in combat and using evasive maneuvers. So it has a limited kind of use to it. That's one reason I don't find it useful. The other reason is that what it provides is just really not useful. I already get a pretty good reduction of bridge officer ability time. I don't really need this for that. It's there, I guess. I've got it now, but yeah, I just don't find it that useful. But I'm going to demonstrate it to you because it is part of the ship, so you know what you get with the ship anyway. Now let's talk about some of the other things on this ship that it comes with. One of the big things it comes with is the molecular deconstruction beam. Because this is a temporal starship, it has the molecular deconstruction beam, just like any temporal starship. Think of this as basically an extra weapon on the ship, okay? When you enable this, when you fire it off, you can see here it does 5,000 physical damage per second for 5 seconds, ignores shields, half damage versus players, damage scales with number of offensive counters consumed. To self, 2,000 hull healed per second for 5 seconds. And to foe, you disable for 3 seconds. Self, consume all offensive, defensive, and support counters. And after using it, you gain plus 10% exotic damage. And after using exotic damage, plus 10% increased hull and shield healing. This is a really cool ability. And this is enabled by using these three things here. We have the offensive configuration, the defensive configuration, or the support configuration. So if I enable the offensive configuration, I will gain a buff to engine power, turn, and flight speed. However, my hull healing is decreased, so I can maneuver and move around even faster. That actually might help you get above that 88 a little bit better. If I enable defensive configuration, I have more max shield power, more incoming hull healing. My ship is glitching out. Sometimes this happens, and you just saw it happen here. I wasn't doing anything, and the back step decided to play the animation again, even though I haven't clicked it. That sometimes happens, so sometimes it can be a little bit glitchy. Take note of that. You just saw it here. I wasn't doing anything, and it did a back step maneuver without the fancy graphics. That was weird. So yeah, sometimes it can be a little buggy. They need to fix that, I suppose. But anyway, back to the defensive configuration. You get a plus 10 max shield power, plus 20% incoming hull healing. However, you lose turn and flight speed on that. And then you also have the support configuration, and this is the one that may be more useful on a science ship like this one. You gain exotic damage and control strength, but you lose energy weapon damage. So, I mean, you know, all of these have a little bit of a sacrifice somewhere. You do gain something, but you also lose something. So just use them wisely. And then when you do that, as long as you're in combat, these counters build up. And when they get to maximum, which is basically building up the power for this device, then you fire off this physical damage that this does. And it can be pretty powerful. It can actually do a pretty good job. The problem is it takes a while to build up those counters, and then while they're building up, you are sacrificing an ability of your ship. So that's kind of the downside to it. I end up really not using it much, because another problem is that I end up destroying the enemy before the power is built up good enough for me to use it. I can actually take out the enemy pretty fast, and by the time I've done that, well, the power hasn't built up all the way yet. So I kill them faster than the power builds up for me to use it. But every now and then on a big enemy or something, maybe it could be useful. But at least the ship has the ability to do it. So that's something that you could, buff some of your abilities with, especially like the support configuration for doing more science-y type powers like this ship can do. That could be beneficial. Just understand that your weapon ability won't be as strong. But it's there. Again, I don't use it very much, but it is there. So that's some of the innate abilities of the ship. Now let's look at some of the other abilities that I have added onto the ship that you could add on if you also have them. I have here the temporal threading. Your weapons gain plus 25 armor penetration and shield penetration. So if I hit that, it doesn't have a graphic or anything special pop up. It's just enabled. And then you can see the countdown timer for how long it lasts. That's a very useful feature. And then I also have temporal fracture. This one is really cool. As you can see, this is a damage over time and hold multiple targets. It shoots out these, I don't know what to call them, temporal fracture things. And it does physical damage every 1 second with 100% shield penetration to the enemy. And it also holds them. Really cool ability. I end up using this one a lot. I really do. And you can buff it and use it. And I'll show it while we're in combat. Obviously, I can't show it here right now. And then also, I use this one a lot, the temporal inversion field. It affects foes to all enemies within 5 kilometers. You gotta be within 5 kilometers. You get negative 200% flight speed. You reduce all their stuff. You debuff them. Minus 150% turn rate. Basically, you really slow down your enemy with this feature, as long as you're, close to them. This combined with some of the other things like temporal fracture and then my gravity well, I can really hold enemies and just do a whole lot of damage to them. Another ability is the temporal distortions. Again, I can't show this one off until I'm in combat. Targets foe, it creates those distortions, the past and present future version of your ship, and I'll show that in combat. And then finally, the Mannheim effect. This one is the past and future one. This one is creates 5 temporal distortions. So you can't show that right now, but it creates a temporal distortion almost like the vortex, kind of like the vortex ability, which I actually have that too, the subspace vortex ability. And then this one is the Mannheim effect. I can't enable that. 2 versions of your ship, past and present, and it kind of like confuses the enemy, but there they are. I have found this one also to be very useful as well. There's the countdown timer on it. And then of course you can still backstep with it. And that's just such a cool graphic there when it does that. But again, these things are best shown like in combat. I can't do much here at ESD, but in combat you will see those things in action. As for the other powers, because it's a science ship, like I said, I've got Gravity Well 3 with exploding gravity wells. It's real powerful. I've got the Subspace Vortex 3, so that's powerful. I got Tychon's Rift, Tractor Beam. Here's the polymorphic probes. I have just everything you can imagine that's really good for a science ship. The molecular deconstruction beam, tachyon beam. I even have the trajector jump, so I can jump forward. And oh yes, we also have sensor analysis. Because it's a science ship, you also have sensor analysis. So like, here's this person here, and it says if you target a foe, plus 6% bonus damage per stack. If target a foe, plus 6 bonus power drain from target per stack. If target is a foe, after 6 stacks, incoming heals to target are halved. Now if your target's a friend, you can give them a plus 5% bonus healing per stack. So like, he would be my ally. I can target him, and now I'm providing basically a plus 5% bonus healing per stack. As you're in combat, that stacks up. So this sensor analysis, you can use it on foes, or you can use it on friendly, and that will give you another ability. Again, like I said, powerful science ship, right? Powerful science ship. Lots of abilities. Lots of abilities. I'm trying to make sure that I covered all the basics here, and now he's doing it on me. So I would have extra healing if I were healing. So there you go. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick is, now I think I got somebody's attention. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick is what one of these shields look like on this. This is the Terran Task Force Covariant Shield. This is my favorite visual of the ship on the ship. If I put this shield on here, check out how the ship looks now. I think this is one of the best looks for this ship. So beautiful. I like the purple. I like the yellow. I think this fits really well. And so this is what I'm going to use for our combat sessions today. As I demonstrate everything in combat, I will use this shield look on it because I just think it looks so cool. Yes, so let's get to it. Okay, I am in Japori, and the first one that I am going to show is the out of time. I say out of cold because it does cold damage to you when it enables. Now, for me to enable this feature or this trait, I have to be in combat, so I need to be firing on this enemy, and then I need to travel over 88. Okay? It's going to be hard for you to tell what's happening and what's going on. But what you will see is that I should have like this afterburner kind of look. Then as I slow down, I will take cold damage and turn silverish. And then that's when basically, however many stacks of that I've built, will reduce my bridge officer time. Now, I don't have a lot of any time built up on the bridge officer abilities, so you're not going to see what that reduction does. But I just want to show you that this is how you basically enable this feature, right? Because there's just no other way. You have to be going fast for it to enable. So I'm going to fire. There it is. See my little afterburners going, and see how I'm cold now? I've got a silver thing going on. Now that I've slowed down, the out of time, there it is, will stop working, and technically it's reducing my bridge officer time, and then it pretty much is over. So not a very useful feature, that. Not a very useful feature. I'll try it once more. Let me let my thingies cool down, and I'll do it once more. Let me let evasive maneuver cool down. Again, you will notice how I like shoot out afterburners all of a sudden on the ship. And then it turns silver. That's me taking cold damage because of the effect being enabled. And while that's happening, though, I'm building up stacks that would technically reduce this time, like the trajectory jump time, the bridge officer abilities time, right? So let's go back in and do it again. There it is. And then as I slow down, or as my ship slows down, there we go. And it should be reducing the time on this, but I guess I probably didn't build up a lot of counters. But yeah, I just don't find it that useful. So that's the trait. That's what the special trait does. I'm going to say that the trait's a pass on this ship. You might as well slot in a better starship trait, right? Yeah, what can I say? That's how that works. Meh on that. But let's do the temporal backstep, okay? And for the temporal backstep, it really works best when you're like taking a lot of damage and about to die, or you have a lot of foes around you. So let me get to the next group real quick and kill this one. Okay, now let's see what we can do with this next group here. I really need to find an enemy that can do a whole lot of damage to me, because that's when it works best. And these ships aren't going to do it. I might have to wait until I can get to a ship that can do that. But I'll just go ahead and show you what the localized effect looks like. So let's say we're in combat. We're taking damage. We're doing stuff. Things are happening. Oh, I'm in trouble. I want a temporal backstep. There we go. You can see how it holds the foes Temporal backsteps me out, kind of resets all my powers. It totally reset all my powers. Okay. That's basically temporal backstep. Now, well, there's that cold damage I'm taking from out of time. So basically, it's not that useful either, because I get into situations where I really don't need to use it, because I'm often not in those situations. So temporal backstep is something that's sometimes more of a hindrance than a help. I would really like to get down to a low point of health so you could see how my ship can automatically go back in time and save itself. I wonder if I can do that. Maybe if I just stop firing on the ships and let them fire on me. I don't know if they can do enough damage to me, though. I really need a bigger enemy. I need an enemy that can do a lot of damage to me, so I'm not going to be able to show that off right now. So let's not even worry about that right this second, because I can't show that off. What I wanted to show off was the specialization feature I have where when I explode, my ship resets itself and I don't really explode. It's really cool. I just can't show it to you right now because these ships cannot do enough damage to me. I need to find a more powerful enemy, I think. Or maybe if I just take my shield off. I don't want to mess up all my stuff. Alright, so we won't worry about that right now. Let's get to the next. Let me kill these real quick and get to the next group. The thing I want to show off next will be some of the other powers that my ship has. Let me see which one I would like to show off next. Maybe the temporal distortions. That one's kind of cool. Do it on these ships here. Temporal distortion. Oh, that was the wrong one. That was the temporal duplicates. Okay, well, that's the one we're doing then. So you can see how that works. Sending out my copies of my ship. Like, there they are. See, the enemy is firing on them. Kind of confusing them. They're also using sensor array, which is cool. So that wasn't the one I wanted to show. That was the Mannheim effect. So that's what the Mannheim effect looks like. Very cool. But I do want to show off the distortions. Where's the next group? There it is. Alright, let's do the temporal distortions. There it goes. There they are. Temporal that's what they look like. These little things here are the temporal distortions. Very cool looking, except they flew away from them. They do work. They work really cool, but what helps is to do a gravity well and then a temporal distortion. Because that holds them in place, and then the temporal distortion does their work. So, here's the temporal fracture, though. The temporal fracture sends out these little things here, and it does this really cool effect, and it's doing damage to them, but at the same time also holding them. So that's really cool. Here's the polymorphic probe. That's really cool. And look, it's shooting like electricity and lightning stuff at them.
Target's shields have failed.
See, it just did a thing on them. You can see what they're doing. Look at that. That's cool. Alright, let's show off now. This is the temporal inversion field. You need to get close, remember, within 5. Within 5, and then you do that.
Warning. Ship is under attack.
And that does this little effect on them, and that's the temporal inversion field. And it's still going, mind you. And then, of course, my gravity well just, I mean, it's so powerful.
Shields have failed.
And of course, in addition to my gravity well, I have subspace vortex. So I can fire off my gravity well and hold them with the gravity well. Then I can fire off the subspace vortex. By the way, it allows this trajectory jump also. When you do the subspace vortex, you can jump like to them or something. But anyway, I can hit him with the gravity well, then I can hit him with the subspace vortex, and then I can also hit him with the temporal distortions all at the same time, and let me just tell you, it eats them away. Literally eats them away. So let's go do another round. Let's go to a different one and try that combination. Okay, I am in the Karaya system. Now, I also forgot to mention that you can also buff all of these abilities more than I'm showing here by buffing your auxiliary power, which I haven't done yet. But I got red matter and... is that all I got? I thought I had emergency power to auxiliary. Maybe not. But those kinds of things can also increase it even more. But let's do a combination. Also, your scientific fleet, naturally. Let's do a combination. Gravity well, subspace vortex, and then those things, the distortion things. Look how much that's destroying them, and I didn't even buff them up, and I'm not even firing on them. That's just those space abilities alone, not buffed up. Granted, there are other enemies firing on them, so I probably need to find a patrol where there's nothing else firing so you can see like what the raw damage is. But you get the idea, and especially if I had buffed that, it'd just be nuts. I mean, I haven't even fired. Here's my temporal fracture. I'll fire that. I don't even have to fire a weapon on my ship and I can still destroy them. Look at that. Gone. I didn't even have to fire a single weapon on my ship. But here goes those rear temporal things that I'll be firing off now.
Hull integrity below 75%.
The cluster things, I forgot what they're called. Oh, now I'm taking damage. Finally, I'm taking damage. I wonder if I can get these ships to hurt me enough. I want them to hurt me so you can see my ship come back to life. Destroy me. There we go. Maybe it's gonna happen. Alright, let's watch. Here we go. Watch that. Look at that. See that? I came back to life. Instead of exploding, I came back to life. That's such a cool ability. I love it. What's it called? Because I forgot. Continuity. That's it. It's called continuity. So hold on a second. Let's just get out of here and take a look at it. It's called continuity. So it's the temporal operative continuity. This is it. Yeah. When reduced to less than 10% of your hull, you will immediately be removed from danger. Your ship will teleport approximately 8 kilometers from its current location, become briefly untargetable, and have its hull and shields restored by a large amount. This action will also wipe all accumulated threats versus NPCs. After continuity is triggered, your ship will perform at least less than full capacity for a short period of time. I love this ability. It really saves me a lot of the time. It's a very cool ability. So if you're using the temporal specialization, that continuity, big time, good ability. Yes.
Warning, ship is under attack.
I guess the next thing is let's look at the molecular deconstruction beam. But we have to build up counters for it to work. So I'm not sure if we'll make it because it takes it a little bit of time. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to have this whole thing destroyed before I'm able to use it. Oop. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, we just have these little light ones going. Oh, it's ready to go. I don't have anything big to use it on, but here goes a Tavero Light Warbird. See, it did quite a bit of damage to it. But now everybody's destroyed. So by the time I'm ready to use the molecular deconstruction beam, the whole map's gone. The whole map's destroyed anyway. So I think on this ship I need to do just a little bit more to show you what it's like in combat, because I haven't really gone all out, and I want to show you the ship going all out, full throttle, firing everything I can, and so forth. So I think what I'll do is go to Argala, and let's do one more round there. Alright, here we are at Argala. This should be a good one, even though there are the Benthans. Looks like we're fighting the Kazon today. I'm just going to go all out. I'm probably not going to, like, talk a lot here. I'm just going to, like, use my abilities.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shield has failed.
And you can just kind of sit back and watch as I use everything here.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
Alright, let's get the next group. Yes,
Looks like our
deputize.
flight got them to notice us.
Okay,
Let's go
now
over and
let's
ask if their boss
buffer
might
up.
come out of hiding.
And hit them with everything I got.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shield has failed.
Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them and whittle down their numbers. We will not go quietly.
So nice. So cool, this thing. There's my Chronoton cluster torpedo. Didn't really show that off much, but you'll see it kind of spreading out and doing its thing. Chronoton mines. They will do their, see them going toward that ship right now.
Target's shield has
See how they're hitting the ship? So there's another thing. That's the, basically that rear aft weapon.
You will stand down and surrender to the Bentham Guard. Sensors are picking up small habitations in some of the asteroids, possibly consistent with bolt holes, temporary hideout.
Target's shield has failed.
what we want, where we want.
Target shields have failed.
I'll go ahead and use my Mannheim effect here, even though I don't need it, but there it is. And the only other one to try would be the backstep, which I don't really need to use, but maybe we'll use it when we get to the flagship.
Picked up a tight beam transmission on a new frequency. We're jamming that spectrum of their comms now, but it was probably a call for assistance.
Target's shields have failed.
And I just love the maneuverability of this ship so much.
I'm taking you with me.
Okay, there's the flagship. Like I said, I mean, you can see, look, I haven't even used Photonic Fleet, which I forgot to mention. Obviously a science character, science ship. I have Photonic Fleet, but I haven't needed to use it. I have so many things I could use, so many more things I could use. But even though I'm already destroying the flagship, let's just go ahead and use the back step so you can see it. Here goes the back step. I mean, like I don't need to use it. I don't even need the molecular deconstruction beam. But there it is. Because that's part of the ship and you need to see that working.
That's got it. Excellent work.
All
we'll
done.
Send over a pacification party to take the suspect into custody.
And you can see I didn't really take much damage doing all that either.
Thank you for your assistance. We have the suspect.
So this ship is capable of so much. I mean, I didn't even use all the abilities I have. I forgot to mention, yeah, obviously, Photonic Fleet. So I can create 66 level photonic battleships, one 66 level photonic battleship, two 66 level photonic cruisers or escorts, 50% chance for each ship to be upgraded to a photonic battleship, summons, or it summons 3 shuttles, runabouts, or fighters if you're piloting small craft. So as you can see, I have even more abilities that I didn't end up needing to use, but they're there if I needed to use them. I also have another ability I didn't even need to use. I've got the tethered non-baryonic asteroid to like pull things toward me. That's that discovery ability. I put it on this ship, but I didn't even use that, and I do have that ability. I got so many other things, of course, from being a science ship. Sensor analysis, sensor scan. This one helps a lot. Use that a lot for sure. But other things that I didn't even end up using, I've got the sensor interference platform, all kinds of things. But the point is, the ship's so powerful, I don't even need to use half the things I got. I really don't have to worry. It's a very powerful ship. So here's my overall review of this ship. It's powerful, but its power lies in its combinations of things that you put together, not necessarily in the starship trait it comes with. It comes with the out-of-time starship trait, but that's not very useful. I recommend slotting out of time, putting in a different starship trait if you have better starship traits. If you don't, then naturally go ahead and use it. That's my thought on that. Now, as for the backstep, the temporal backstep, I also kind of feel the same way about the temporal backstep. It's not that useful most of the time because I just don't need it. I don't need to use it. It's more of an annoyance, really, than helpful. I have an ability already with the continuity that gets me out of those sticky situations where I'm about to explode. So I don't need to use it very often or at all. But the reason why I'm keeping it is so that I get the set bonuses from the other consoles that are on this ship. All the extra consoles I have, they have abilities, but then putting them together gives you those set bonuses. So that's what makes this ship powerful, is when you combine those sets. You combine the temporal warfare set. You combine the temporal defense initiative set. You combine the this set, temporal warfare. I just said that. You combine the temporal defense initiative stuff. You put all that together. That's what makes this ship powerful. And then if you want to go ahead and upgrade it to tier 6X like I have, you get another starship trait, more console slots, a universal console slot where you can slot in something like I have that's actually buffing your anti-proton damage on the ship, giving me basically another tactical console, making my weapons even more powerful, doing much more DPS. So these things combined is what makes the ship powerful. But beyond that, I just love the maneuverability of it. I think it's the right kind of size ship for this game. It's balanced very well. It's just the right size. It's big enough and small enough. It maneuvers very well, but yet it still has a good hull strength. It's like an escort in that it can move well, and when you put things on it, like the tachyonetic converter that helps the flight turn rate and all that, and other abilities and things combined with those console buffs that help you turn better and fly faster as well, then it just is very maneuverable, but yet you still get a very good hull strength. 74,000 is what I've got here. Much better than an escort, yet I am maneuvering like an escort, and that's what I like. So it's got the right looks to it. It looks awesome as far as a ship goes. I mean, just look at that. It's a beautiful ship. It moves right. It's got the right maneuverability, and then it has the right feature set. Don't forget, it has the two universal bridge officer seatings and then 2 temporal science officer seating, so you can have science powers or temporal powers in addition, plus all the other temporal stuff, and you add in the temporal operative specialization, and then you add in the temporal defense initiative, and you have just a very powerful starship. So the Verne Temporal Science Vessel tier 6, I give it an A+. This is a ship I recommend if you can get it, if you like this sort of thing. If you're a science character, this can be a good ship, granted that you get the right things. On its own, it is lacking. Like I said, the starship trait is a bit lacking. The temporal backstep is not as useful. But at least you do get the extra power of having this molecular deconstruction beam. That's something you wouldn't normally have, and you do get that because it's a temporal starship. So that enhances it a little bit, but it's the combination of gear that you put on here and those set bonuses that make this really, really stellar as a science ship. A lot of control abilities, a lot of drain abilities. You can do that with this ship in this setup. Put it on a science character like I have, and it can be very powerful. It just depends how you build it and what things you have access to. So that's my review of it. Like I said, this is going to be my mainstay go-to ship on my science character. I will still be reviewing other science ships on this character, but this ship will be like the one that I always go back to for this character because I just love it so much. And that's my review of the Verne Temporal Science Vessel Tier 6X. Thank you all for watching this video. If you like what you see below, consider giving this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel to see more. Now stay tuned for a montage of combat in this starship.